Hey, it's Teacher Keeley coming to you from my ESL classroom in St. Louis, Missouri. Do you have a unit assessment coming up? Is the sheer number of slides freaking you out a little bit? I totally get it. Don't worry. In this video, I will explain what VIPKID unit assessments are, why we give them, and I'll give tips on how to give them. I'll talk about pacing your unit assessment as well as what to do when your student does not have a project, what to do when you finish early, that can totally happen, and what to do when parents just give their kids the answers during the test. Yep, that happens too. So if that's the kind of thing you'd like to know more about, stay tuned. But first, I'm assuming that if you're looking at this video, you already are a VIPKID teacher. But just in case, if you're not, go ahead and click the link below to apply. Make sure my referral code is entered, and then I'll be able to help you through the application process. And while you're at it, if you're into learning about online teaching, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and click the bell so that you get notified whenever I release a new video. Okay, on to the unit assessment stuff. I remember the first time I saw UA for unit assessment in my teacher portal. I was new, I clicked on it to see what was in there, and nearly stopped breathing because there were like 45 slides. And I was just like, how am I supposed to do 45 slides in 25 minutes? I already have trouble getting through 25 slides in 25 minutes. What is this about? We'll get to that, but first let's talk about what a unit assessment is. And really, it's just like a test at the end of each unit. And they test things like pronunciation, vocabulary, reading fluency and comprehension, and basically whether or not a student has mastered the objectives of the unit. And you may wonder why we give unit assessments, and basically it's just our chance to find out whether a student has mastered the objectives in the unit and where the student still needs some support. That way we can all work as a team, the teachers, because students can have many different teachers, parents, and learning partner to help the student achieve his or her English language learning goals. / meet the objectives of the unit. VIPKID, as you'll see, has gamified the unit assessment, which I think keeps the stress level down and also makes them a little bit more fun for the kids. Sometimes you'll give a unit assessment to one of your students, one of your regulars, and in that case, it's a good opportunity for you to be able to gauge your teaching and how effective you've been with this particular student. Sometimes, though, you'll have a student that you've never seen before. I think some parents sign their kids up for unit assessments with new teachers to get a completely objective opinion. I think of it as an opportunity to provide an excellent assessment and also meet a new student. In levels 1 through 6, 2 assessments are given in each unit. In levels 2 through 6, there are 12 lessons in each unit, and an assessment is given halfway through in lesson 6 and at the end in lesson 12. Those students will have a project due in lesson 12. The project is first introduced in lesson 5, so they can learn about it and make a selection. The project is again mentioned in lesson 6. The same information is there as in lesson 5. Sometimes the lesson 5 teacher may not get through the lesson and may not be able to spend very much time on the project with the student, so it's nice for it to be brought up again in lesson 6 just in case. Also, it's a good reminder for the student to be thinking about his or her project because lesson 12 is coming. And then lesson 11 is a review lesson for the student and includes another reminder about the project. Just includes all the information, all the different choices the student can make, and examples of what the project will look like. So students get basically 3 reminders about projects, and still some show up without one. Level 1 students still receive 2 assessments, but in Level 1 there are only 8 lessons in each unit. They receive their assessments halfway through and at the end at lessons 4 and 8, and they're called checkpoints in Level 1. There are no projects due for Level 1 students. They're known as pre-VIP students, so they don't need projects. They're usually like 4, 5, 6 years old. No projects for them. And Level 1 assessments are structured really differently than what I'm talking about here, so I won't be mentioning those in this video. Let me show you some unit assessment slides. This is the first slide you would see in a unit assessment. It really just says what level, what unit, and what assessment number. Assessment 2 means we're in lesson 12. So it's the final assessment of the unit. This is the next slide. Jenny is going to the amusement park. She wants to invite you to go with her. Are you ready to go? Usually, this slide is something like this. Jenny's going somewhere. Some student is collecting something or trying to find something out. So this is the game. And there's a question for the VIPKID student. Are you ready to go? Can you help? Something like that. Level 2s may not really understand all of this, but they'll be excited because they hear the word help or ready, and they'll say yes. Slide 3 is where you choose your character. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm explaining these slides, but when you have a class, you can spend seconds on them. So in this slide, you choose your character. I might whip out Meg and Mike and ask my student, do you choose Meg or Mike? Slide 4 is the game map. You can spend seconds and say something like level 1. And then there's another slide with level 1, like a zoomed in game map. Level 1, begin. Then it says presentation time. You can just say, now it's time to present your project. The next slide has the final project information, so you can ask your student, which one did you choose? And your student will tell you. And then he or she can begin the presentation. After that, you get great job and some reward. So you rode the swing ride, in this case. Takes no time. Next slide. Game map again. Level 2. I usually take the pen on the screen and drag it over the path and underline level 2. And then the next slide will say, level 2, begin. And then when we get to, that'll be slide 11 of 45, we'll be actually starting the assessment. So up through slide 11, you will only really have taken significant time for the presentation. But lots of kids don't present like for forever, so it's pretty quick going through this part. Something I'd like to talk about at this point is rewards. Secondary rewards for unit assessments, they're not really necessary because of the game. So you still give stars, and I give stars after completion of each level. And then at the end of each level, it tells you what the student achieved in that level. In this example, it was, you rode the swing ride. So you could just say that and be done with it. You could do something like draw a swing ride on the whiteboard so your child can see it. You could print out a swing ride if you wanted and stick it on something so they can see. But the secondary reward system is built in. I'll say that's true for levels 2 through 6. For level 1, they don't really have a secondary reward, and they're the babies, so I feel like they should have something. I tend to give a reward. Honestly, my level 1s will request ice cream. They really like getting ice cream. Sometimes I will do things like draw a face because they can learn parts of the face, like it's additional learning. But I like to just include something else for my level 1s because there's nothing on the slides. And if you want some more reward ideas, I have a video on the best VIPKID rewards. I'll link it below and you can check that out. In your unit assessment, it's a good idea to still use props. So I like to use Meg and Mike, and I'll often use my whiteboard and markers, and for levels 1 and 2, a microphone for sure because there's singing involved. Also, it's a great idea to use TPR so that students understand as much as possible during the assessment. A unit assessment is a test, but it's also a teaching tool, and that's part of the reason why I think I like it, because you have students perform various tasks. And many times they do them wonderfully. But then you have the opportunity to help make sure they have it like one last time before they move on to the next unit. So if a student makes a mistake, definitely take the time to correct them during the assessment. You grade them and then correct them. And then have them repeat whatever your correction was and praise them for a good job. Something else to know is the feedback for unit assessments looks a bit different. For levels 2 through 6, you score your student for each question that they answer. And for level 1, you only score some of the questions. Some of them are there to keep the lesson moving and sort of review as you go, but you only score the ones that are indicated on the feedback form. Scoring works like this. There are 3 levels of demonstrated ability during the unit assessment. First, there's the can't do it level, where your student is unable to complete the task that's assigned, in which case your student would get 0 points. There's the second level, which is can do it with help, and your student will get 1 point for that. And then there's can do it independently, and your student gets 2 points for that. I highly recommend scoring unit assessments as you go. You can just click the Add Feedback button at the top of the screen, and then to the right, you'll have another little window appear where you can sort of tick little boxes, well, they're circles, as you ask the questions and students respond. It's very easy to do while you're giving the assessment and a total time saver, because if you wait to the end, you have to remember how a student did on every single question and then also write the words you want to say to parents. Now, what do you do if a parent is off to the side just giving the answers to little Tommy? This definitely happens. You can even hear it very clearly. So, here's the deal. In VIPKID, parents have paid for their children to take on this extracurricular activity where they're learning something that's really important to them. If mom or dad is over here feeding answers, mom or dad knows the child doesn't know the answer or assumes that. So they kind of already know about the student's progress. And that's part of the point of the assessment. So if they're doing this during an assessment, what I do is listen to what the child is able to produce. So even if it's exactly what the parent says, they get credit for that. If the parent gives them the wrong answer and the child gives me that, or if the parent gives the right answer but the child doesn't say that, then they don't get points for that. I will try to help. So I help students. One of the scoring categories is can do it with help. So I will help them but not give them the answers myself. There's a separate case when parents also give answers during regular class, and then you have the opportunity to write a note to the learning partner, and maybe the learning partner can dialogue with the parent about a different strategy to take with their child's English learning. Let's talk pacing. So there are 4 levels of the game in the level 1 assessment, and if you take 25 minutes divided by 4 levels, that's a little bit more than 6 minutes per level. Level 1 assessments are 39-ish slides as opposed to the typical 33, and they can move very, very quickly. I had one student recently show up 15 minutes late to his assessment, and we still were able to complete it in the class time. He's a student that catches on quickly and already had a great handle on the material, so that's an easy thing to do with a student that can move faster, someone that's a bit stronger. But when you have a student who's struggling, moving quickly is very, very difficult. I recommend offering opportunities for the student to extend the learning throughout the lesson when you have a student who is quick and could finish very quickly. That way, you're not stressed out at the end, wondering what to do with all the time, you haven't blown through the material, and you can take your time with it and make it mean more. You can do that with your level 1 students by going over the songs that you sing in those classes and making sure the students understand the words, and then you can sing the song again. So you can start that on the first song slide. You can know that you can do it again at the end. There are built-in extension activities, things for kids to listen to and then repeat. You can use the blank slide to help them practice their letters. You can also ask them questions about things relevant to the assessment, like, do you like corn? And circle the corn on the screen. In Lesson 6 unit assessments, in levels 2 through 6, there are 5 levels. So if you take 25 minutes and divide by 5, you get about 5 minutes per level. Interactive level 2 is a little bit different because in Lesson 6, there are review slides first, and then the assessment starts, so maybe the first 15 slides are review. So you can do those, and then note the time you have remaining and divide that by 5 to see how quickly you should be accomplishing the levels. In the level 12 unit assessments, for levels 2 through 6, there are 6 levels, and that's because one level is the project. Again, some students might not even have a project, so you might breeze right on through that slide and take about 5 minutes per level. But then there are students that will have their project presentation, which is great. It doesn't necessarily take them very long, so you can think 4-ish minutes per level. And you can also gauge after you've completed the project to see how much time is left and then divide that by 5 to see how quickly you should be finishing levels to stay on pace. Even though there are a ton of slides, like 45, 50, you can still finish early. Seriously, you can. I remember hearing that and not believing it, but you really can. Then what do? Don't leave. You're supposed to be in the class for the full 25 minutes. That's what the parents are paying for. They're thinking about it in terms of time. So deliver the best lesson you can in your 25 minutes. You might do that through extending throughout the lesson, but you may come to the end and see that you still have time left over, or you might prefer to have the chunk of time left at the end to do something. So what do? Well, if a student has made mistakes in the lesson, it's a good idea to go back and review so that you can make sure that they really understand it. If you have a student that got through the whole thing just fine or doesn't have a whole lot to review, so that doesn't take very long, it can be fun to read with students, to play games with them. There are a lot of different activities you can do when a student finishes early. And actually, that's one of my upcoming video topics. So look for a video from me on what to do with your student when you finish the lesson early. As soon as I publish it, I will link it below. So that's the info that I have for unit assessments. I know when I had my first one, I was all about YouTube. How do you do a unit assessment? And I don't think there were very many videos, so I got a little information, but with practice, I understood how to do them, and I've come to love them a lot, and perhaps that will be the case for you too. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a like, and remember to subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.